I'm already holding up the book, Morgan.
Perfect.
I have been so excited to get you back on, Morgan. You third time guest. This might be the first time actually. We've had a third time guest on the show.
That's good.
How do you feel about this?
I feel very special. You have a lot of pretty cool people on here, so for me to be on here 3 times, it's a good thing for me.
Well, it just means you keep launching even like bigger and better things. That's always a big pull for me is like I want to promote my friend's stuff, especially when I know it's good. So obviously we're here to talk about the real work, the book that I made you send me because I know it's gold. And what's funny is like it's almost like you've been writing your own book on social media for years. Like since we were traveling with the package deal, you and Jen and Amanda were always so good at like posting and writing a story. And it's just a matter of time before you got like pen to paper and made a book. But um, how does it feel to be an author?
It feels good. I'm gonna be real about where I'm at right now is I kind of feel a little bit like floating in the wind because everything in that book kind of came out so fast, like it needed to come out.
Yeah.
And like you said, a lot of it was already written. Like you go back and I'm going through my posts and just going, okay, what really connected with people? What do people want to hear more about? Okay, of course, like this story. And it just came out. And now I'm like, all right, yeah, I should be talking about my book, but I already wrote it. So whoever is going to be helped by it is going to just pick it up. But that's kind of not how books work. I need to be talking about it.
Sure, absolutely. And I love at the beginning where you said this is not like a mental health or even a mental skills book. Like it's basically storytelling. And I think we would be remiss if we didn't remind listeners if they've listened to you already on the podcast, learn about your story, especially from Washington and um how I don't want to spoil it all, but like how you were in tears because you were just relieved that your final season was done. And nobody wants to end their career that way, right? And I think that's probably a big factor as to why, the story either hits home or also just pulls the hearts of those who know it. But can you just briefly give us, and it doesn't have to be brief, but just give us your cliff notes of, that experience which led to, ultimately all of this amazing work you're doing now?
Yeah. I mean, all of us have a story, and that's why I thought that putting mine in there, I was going back and forth and just going, okay, should this just be about ASAP training? Should this just be about like those things that I think are important? But when you tell your own story, people automatically are thinking back to theirs. Like when I was 12, oh, now you're thinking about when you were 12 and who you were with and your parents taking you to softball and my biggest reason I think that I've always been drawn to talking about the mental side, the mental and emotional side of sport, is due to my experience at Washington, not quite getting up to playing to the expectations that were set for me. And the scene that you're talking about is from the 2010 World Series. We had won in 2009. I was supposed to be this big preseason All-American and just, I mean, crush it. And fast forward to 2010, we're still the number ranked team in the country. Danielle's still blowing people away, and she's Danielle Laurie, so she's going to do that. And I've just had the worst season of my life and actually fell into depression based on a lot of different factors, right? I'm not going to say that me being in a slump was the only factor that led me there, but I think that's the case, that there's all of these factors and compounding things that happen in college when you're growing up that people don't talk about, that people think is normal to an extent so that they don't put time and effort into building the skills that could help them when you're on the biggest stage. So the reason I mean, to finish that story, that thought, I'm like all over the place, but yeah, the only memory that I had at the end of that World Series, we were 2-out. It was a terrible World Series showing for us being the number one ranked team in the country, 2-out. And I have so many amazing memories from 2009, just like I can smell the dirt. I remember getting a game-winning hit off. to send us into the actual championship series off of ASU. I see the ball just tipping off the shortstop's glove, and I have all these amazing memories. But in 2010, literally the only thing I can remember is crying into my dad's chest at the very end and just being embarrassed too because, oh my God, my team thinks I'm crying because I did bad or like I'm embarrassed or because we lost. But I'm just like so relieved, and my body is just like shedding all of that emotion that I've been holding in for the entire year. So yeah, it's a lot of stories. That's probably the most profound one for me that led me in the direction of how I speak to kids growing up in sport now is because I don't want kids to feel that regret of being in the dream position and not being able to be present, not being able to just go, okay, I did it. All right, no matter what happens, or no matter what happened during the season, no matter how I was playing, I'm here, let's go. Like I couldn't do that. And the mind is just a really tricky thing. So the more and more that we ignore what we have to work on, the more it's going to continue to come up.
And it's so interesting. I'm thinking of like the timeline of like you were probably 20, 21 when you ended your collegiate career. And they say your mind isn't like fully matured until even 25.
Mm,
And, that's why some players like they evolve, the older they get, a lot of people don't get to play being older.
yeah.
But, you know, do you know when you made that connection? Like how old were you when you were like, man, if I could go back, this is how I would do it different. And you actually could have, all of these things, to refer back to. Like, is there a time where because when I was 25 is when I actually realized a lot of things that my parents did for me and the sacrifices they made. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it all makes sense. And if I could go back in my game, I'd change so many different things. And it was 25 for me. Do you know when like you felt that at
I
all?
mean, there's different shifts in your life, right? Like right after that season, I made a promise to myself that I'd never get like that low. Like I'd never allow myself to isolate, to just be completely alone. That's why community I think is so important. So my senior year, I had one shift and one perspective of, all right, I need to be a better teammate. Like that was my biggest thing, and that's my biggest regret from like my junior year was just I was absent. I was so focused and mad and frustrated and sad and depressed within myself. And so my shift was like, all right, just get external. Like who cares about, I mean, obviously I care about the pain that I was going through, but when we are so hyper focused on what we're doing wrong, we are literally being selfish teammates. It's just you can't focus on the team when you're so focused on yourself.
Hmm.
So that was a big shift for me, but in terms of when I realized that my mom was right about everything, that's that's a painful realization in itself. And God, I want to say even at like probably as we were like traveling with the package deal, like not till 27, like going very fast and doing a lot of things, you don't have a lot of time to reflect
Hmm.
and just be thankful and grateful in your where you're at. But yeah, I would say it took me a while to get there.
Yeah. And I just wanted to hear that from you simply because I think some athletes think they have to have it all figured out at 15.
Mm.
It's like, no, you have a lot to a lot to learn. And I don't want to sound like that old person that's like, oh, just wait, but at the end of the day, like what you're going through, and I think that what's amazing about what you've created here is the fact that, these are things, and I know you've said this to me even before, is like you wish you would have had some of this knowledge so much earlier. So, what I took away, what I want to start with especially is like the fact that you isolated yourself, right? Like I think that's like the easiest thing to do is to just not talk to anyone. And I've shared this once or twice maybe on the podcast, but when I was going through my biggest struggle was when I was a professional athlete. So like whatever year you were like at a couple years and I think I was like 23 and I was going through like the biggest mental struggle myself. And I did exactly what you did. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was with my now husband at the time. He didn't even know what I was going through, even though he probably did, but just didn't know how to talk about it with me because we were so young in our relationship. But like, my dad had no idea. My mom had no idea that I was literally, my motivation was gone. I was told by a coach that, hey, once the starters get here, you're not going to play. And I believed it for the first time. And I stopped going to the gym and I stopped doing extra work and I stopped kind of just caring as a professional athlete. And I did the same thing as you and I isolated myself. So I want to hear from you. Why did you not want to tell anyone when you were in the thick of it? Was it embarrassment? Was it, I mean, I'll tell you once you're done, but like
Yeah.
I guess for me, it was more of just like I felt so weak and I didn't want other people to know that.
hmm that's a lot of it, especially being athletes and just, I mean, we're valued based on performance. We're valued based on what can you do for me now? Like what actions are you doing? So no matter what I did, reps wise, watch video, no matter what I did physically to get like out of it, I couldn't get out. And so with my teammates, I didn't feel like anybody understood that. And plus, I had like, I mean, your teammates, you've got a lot of your best friends, you've got people that don't like you because you're starting, you've got like different pockets, right?
Hmm.
And on a team, you don't want to talk about how shitty you're do sorry, how
It's
bad you're
okay.
doing, how bad you're doing in mixed company sometimes because somebody's like, oh wow, she knows she's doing bad and she's still starting over me. Or, it's just you've got these different reasons and that for me, for I felt so guilty for being on the field and not performing that's why I didn't talk to my teammates. With my parents, I didn't want them to worry about me, like just flat out. I just didn't want to burden them with that. And just newsflash, your parents know. Like they just know that you're not going through a good time. And then with my coaches, we tried like so many different things. And I mean, obviously hindsight is 2020. So me trying to help me as a 20-year-old, I would have been like, just get over yourself. Like I was so serious and so focused and so tied in to everything that I was doing that everything was a big deal. And so, yeah, it was just, I was very embarrassed that I couldn't shake it. And even like when I t say the story and people are like, oh, so you were just in a slump. I was like, yeah, I mean, like literally, that's it. And my identity was tied to that slump. And it led me to so many other things in my life, aka isolation, aka probably not treating my body really well with what I was putting in it, aka not sleeping, uh, just have not being in the right relationships outside of softball. And then you look at your life and you don't recognize it. So that's what leads to the depression, plus being predisposed to that, like genetically and there's a lot of things that go into it. Not everybody
Hmm.
that's going to be in a slump also gets depressed. There's a lot of
Sure.
factors.
Yeah, you did it also mention your dad dealt with some anxieties as well. Did you know that at the time that he did, or was that
Yeah,
post all of this experience?
that was post. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I've learned a lot. I mean, I'm 36 now. Just had a birthday, 36. And so I've learned a lot about my family and the different things that they've struggled with. But yeah, as you think about how you go into college when you're 17, 18 years old, you're like a robot. You
Hmm.
don't really know a lot. Our job as kids isn't to ask our parents like, "Oh, what's your history? What did you struggle with?" Da, 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 all these things. So we are kind of jumping into something with blind faith that we're good enough, we're smart enough, we're capable enough, we've got all the skills, and we're going to be okay. It's a very courageous jump, and we need more skills to actually support our that jump.
Hmm.
to me, because man, it's real life once you get to college. And when you don't have just the foundation of who you are yet, and all you have, a lot of softball players have this, and a lot of athletes have this, all you have is who you are as an athlete. It's very fragile.
It is. Isn't it funny though how, we grow up like our parents are the bee's knees, they're everything, like they're
Mm.
perfect. And then you learn these things when you get older about them that you're like, "Oh, wait, you weren't perfect, were you?" Like and they acknowledge it. They're like, "No, of course not." Um And being the firstborn, I think my dad has even reflected and even said in his podcast episode, yeah, we didn't do everything right with you as we did, like, with your two younger sisters. But it is interesting that how much our parents actually tie into this whole story, as well. But so you talked about identity. I feel like we just have to hit on this. So in the book, you literally say the words identity, you tied it to your success. And you had mentioned it earlier about, as a softball player, sometimes that's just the nature of it, right? Like I was never at the Women's College World Series level, but now athletes are getting there and now they're getting beat up on social media and it's very easy
Mm.
to tie your identity to success in the sport and or even really not success, right? Like who we are on either side of the eight ball. It's like
Okay, I found
it's
this on the web for easy to success in this word and
Did you hear that?
so good.
I don't know why it did that.
This is why we
Sorry.
have editing. Um, but anyway, why did you say that your identity was tied to your success? And if you could go back and tell Morgan how not to do that, what
Mm.
would you tell her?
Well, more than being tied to my success, I felt like I had finally overcome my identity being tied to a bad hitter. Like
Mm,
all growing up, this is why this, like, I think all happened to me was growing up, I was told I would never play D1 softball. I would never be able to hit D1 softball. That was when I was 14. And needless to say, I had to get away from that coach, but that was my mom's doing. Like, hey, we need to get you off this team. We need to go somewhere else. And I'm just thinking, well, if I'm not gonna hit D1 pitching, like, what's the point? Kind of thing. Like, and that was just in me. So you need your community, you need your parents to like pull you into these directions of being around people that believe in you. But that was part of my identity to begin with. So fast forward to the 2009 World Series, I had done a lot of work. I had a coach like Marty Tyson who's telling me like, you have it, you're going to be the one, we're preparing you for all these things. And that experience of playing with him rewired my brain to just go, okay, it's not an option for me to like not be the one. You hit or you don't play right now. So
hmm
those are the options. So that was a different way of thinking, and that led me into college. And 2009 was my sophomore year. I just went off and I had the best week of my life. And I was just like, wow, is this me? Like this is me now. Like I have now gone from this girl to this girl to this girl. Okay, I'm it. Like I'm a preseason All-American. Holy cow. And then just fall of my junior year when I start striking out, I'm like, "Oh no." That felt really good to believe that for a second, but like I knew it. I knew I
mm,
wasn't that person, you know? So with identity, it just it's very obviously individualized to your experience and what you've been telling yourself about you and what you can do. But yeah, mine was very much tied to softball and being good at school, just things that were measurable. What's your batting average? What is your GPA? And then what else is there as a kid, as you're growing up, right?
mm,
Like, I don't know. I always saw myself as a good kid. So when I was failing, when I had a hard time being in a good mood because I was failing, then I wasn't a good kid. Then I was a problem kid. Then I was a problem player. And then who am I? I'm just literally just floating around. Just okay, I'll be by myself. Didn't know.
yeah. And going back to that community piece, which is chapter 7 in the book, I need to keep telling you guys where to find these exact things. But I want to talk about Marty because you still have great relationship with him. He is one of the goats in travel
Mm.
softball, like, and will be forever. He's transformed. I don't want to say transformed so many lives, but I kind of do want to say it because so many
You can
people,
say it.
like, they tribute a lot of their success to him and the belief he had in his players. But you had that community, before college, and then you kind of go to college, like you said, and you're kind of told what to do, and you just run through the motions, and it's going so quickly that you don't have time to acknowledge things. And if you were to go back, like, to who Marty helped you believe Morgan was, do you think that if he was by your side that senior year, and when I say by your side, if he was in your ear every day, your senior year, would it have looked any different, you think?
I think as you're going through it, you think that why would anybody want to not help me, but why would they take their time to help me right now? Because everybody's got something going on. So when you're
Yeah.
going through it, you've got this voice in your head that's very much telling you, like, you need to figure this out. They've helped you so much. You have to do this now, all by
Mm,
yourself. And so if I could go back, I would not care about quote unquote wasting people's time, right? Because one, your
yeah.
parents want to hear from you. There's no part of them that ever wants you to feel like you're burdening them. You came from them. They want to help you. And that's something that I couldn't like it was half of me was thinking they won't understand at all. It's going to take me forever to even tell them what's going on. They're going to freak out. They're going to fly me home, and that's going to be the end of it. I'm not even going to be able to finish my career. Um, but your parents know a lot more than you give them credit for. Then they know you a lot better than you give them credit for. So, parents, number one. Number two, if you have somebody in your back pocket like a Marty Tyson or a mentor that you trust, or a brother, a sister, an old teammate that is just there, reach out to them. Like those are the parts of life like that make life worth living, right?
Hmm.
Everybody is busy. Everybody has things to do. But when we reach out to those people and we let them in our world and we communicate to them, you are somebody that made me. You are somebody I trust implicitly. Can you please help me? I get texts like that, not and they're not saying those exact words, but when somebody reaches out to me and they have a real issue, like not a life threatening, but just like going through a crisis,
Yeah.
if somebody reaches out to me, I'm like, "Oh shoot, I can do this." Because they are trusting me to help them right now. It's
Hmm.
not a burden. It is not a burden.
I was just about to ask you if you've gotten those texts because I personally have too as a private instructor, just like you are. And it's literally some of my favorite, I don't want to say my favorite things to do because I don't want my
Right. You
kids
don't
to be
want them to
struggling.
struggle. Yeah.
But it does, I mean, it kind of shows a little validation of like, okay, like the things we were working on, we just got to get back to that. And they trust that. And they know that's helped them get to where they are. But I think everybody needs a reset every once in a while. And when I get a text from an athlete in college, like she had one bad weekend, I'm like, congrats. What did we learn from that weekend? It's like you kind of give them that perspective that, you used to give them every week when you saw them. But it does feel good as a coach to get those text messages. So athletes, like, don't be afraid to text your coaches that you are not a
Yeah,
burden. We care about you. We want to see
it's
you succeed.
crazy. It's crazy to think of what the mind does to you,
Hmm.
right? It's going to put you in this very lonely spot. It's lonely, it's dark, it's cold, it's terrible, but it also is just your mind. Nobody wants you to feel that way. And if anybody that truly loves and cares about you just knew what you were going through, they'd all be reaching out. But the fact that you're states away and everybody sees that you've got the jersey on, that you're starting, seemingly nothing's wrong, right?
Hmm.
But it could be.
Hmm. Yeah. And I know I'm kind of working backwards now, but you start like the entire book talking about patience. And I think that would be something remiss if we didn't talk about it right now is, a lot of people think that they have to fix everything within like the matter of minutes. And in
Mm.
reality, what got you to where you are took a lot of time. And sometimes when you're in and you've dug yourself this big old hole, you're not going to be able to get out of it tomorrow. So why did you start with patience in this book? And if you were to teach somebody a little bit about how to have it right now, if they're going through a funk, um, what would you tell them?
Patience is so, so important because a lot, like, we'll just use the mountain into a molehill or whatever. If it's right in front of you, it seems so big. But once you're driving past, you're like, oh, that's all I was worried about. And I don't want to discount the fact that it can be the most painful thing you've ever been through. I don't want to discount any of that, but just the reason why I started with patience is one, when I had started, and again, the real work used to be called Defense Club, right?
Hmm.
When I originally launched the mental side of sport, I wanted it to be like my little club. And, we all get distracted and go back to softball. But anyways, uh, um, yeah, when I had written that, there was a player suicide that had happened. Um, she was 13 years old. And to me, that changed my thought process around everything that I did. It changed the way that I approached lessons. And yes, I still have really high standards, but the lesson is nothing without the person first. So I
Hmm.
think that in terms of why I started with patience, just I have thought about this a lot of when somebody chooses to do that, there's something wrong, right? It's something going on with the brain, they're sick, but also there's that thought that they'll never figure it out or they're supposed to be something and they're not. When the reality of life is we are supposed to struggle, we are supposed to work through it, we are supposed to gain mental skills and toughness throughout the course of our life, not before we're 13, not before we're 27, throughout the course of our life. And sometimes we don't understand the lesson and we don't understand the impact that we are going to leave on people until it's 10 years later and we look back and we're going, oh, if that never happened to me, I lived a really uninteresting life and I'm going to have zero impact on the people around me. So, yeah, patience is so important. I think there's a lot of athletes that are rushing to get a college scholarship, rushing to have some people notice them, rushing to accomplish all these goals by the time they're 20. And I understand the pull because I was there. I understand the need to be accomplished, to sign on the dotted line and get that scholarship. But also, it doesn't define you. Like, the only defining moments are when you stop and say, okay, I'm done. How did I do? Versus having patience, playing it out, and knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can figure it out.
Hmm. Yeah, I actually remember vividly when that suicide had happened and how it even impacted you. And it's interesting because one, we will identify the difference between mental game and mental health because you do a great job of it describing it in the book. And we even had a sports psychologist on talk about the same exact thing. They are two completely different things.
Yeah, different worlds.
Um, but what's interesting is a couple years ago, I don't know where I heard this, but someone had talked about if you constantly are looking at people who die. Like let's say like older people that are 99 years old, they're on their deathbed and you ask them, what they would have done different. A lot of it would have been that patience piece of like having faith that things will get better at some point, and this is a phase. This is a small season that will teach you so much, and you're going to be challenged often after that. But they kind of would have just slowed down a little bit, some people. And so kind of went on off on a little tangent there, but someone was like, "Yeah, you should be reminding yourself of death one day only because it'll help you give a lot more light to what's in front of you in this very moment too." Um, but no, I heard that and I was like, "Dang, like that hits pretty hard." Um,
Yeah. I mean, and everybody wants these skills, right? I saw this Alex Hormozy reel and I save it because I think it's so good. And he talks about, all right, if you want, like, you want to be this awesome person, if that awesome person has all these traits and skills, all right, you want to you don't just give yourself patience or virtue or like all of these amazing traits. You have to be tested so you can build those things. You're not just
mhm,
going to be just magically be this amazing person. It takes trials, it takes failure, it takes you being up against something that's really scary.
mhm. And tons of forgiveness along the way.
A lot.
Um, Absolutely. So just because you do a great job describing mental skills and mental health, because you do, um, again, you describe it well in the book, but I think it would be very good to talk about it now because we did kind of just dive in a little bit to the mental health issue. But we're not doctors. Neither you nor I
Yes.
are. And we don't claim to be. But there are mental skills in this book, which we will get to here in a second, that, can help an athlete develop, that mental muscle. But what is the difference between mental health and mental skills? And let's start diving into some of those skills that, you're teaching your athletes now and even in this book.
Yeah, so mental health is we're talking about anxiety, depression, like those diagnoses that are a lot of these words are getting thrown around a lot. And mental health is and mental health and wellness is associated with you being able to function as a member of society, right? Those diagnoses are based on your ability to have relationship with people, like about the type of mood that you're in every day. It has nothing to do with sport. Mental health, it doesn't. Athletes have a mental wellness scale that is ever fluctuating, and we've seen this in the spotlight a lot in recent years, which is really cool. But it gets really muddy when like we're talking about, all right, we need a mental health day when in reality, like, okay, is that just a day off because people are tired? Like, what are we talking about? So it's been really confusing, I think, for athletes, coaches, parents to know when to push kids, to know when to say, hey, I'm actually not okay right now. So the mental wellness piece is something that's very important. Mental game is entirely different, right? Heads up baseball. There's a ton of books and trainings on this, full companies that go in and they're all about mental performance coaching, right? Visualization, breath work, finding a focal point, funneling in your focus. Amazing stuff. It works. All right. So I'm like writing the line right in the center, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not going to be training the mental game aspects. And I'm just talking about mental skills because I think that my role in writing this book is to introduce and to just have the conversation of like, hey, these are things that have happened to me. If I would have focused on the mental skills, if I would have paid attention to the mental health and things that would have been better for me and more healthy to have these conversations in my mind or with my community around me, I could have prevented some of the absolute downfall that I experienced on the biggest stage. Now, am I saying kids shouldn't experience struggle or failure at all? 100% no, because that is the only way that they are going to strengthen their mental muscles and actually understand the beauty and I don't know, just extremes of life is you have to have failure in your life. But my ultimate goal is that it doesn't ever stop them. Failure will never be something to be afraid of. It should be a tool for them to use. Hope that was.
That was great. Oh yeah, that was fantastic. And what I've admired about your coaching ever since I met you was the fact that you are able to, one, teach a defender how to become a better defender physically, but also mentally at the same time. And like I have even tried to tie that even into my hitting training as well, because that's where we find those transformations of they're building their confidence without even knowing it. Um, so, I mean, you work with athletes every week at the warehouse. So, what are some of, even if it's just a defensive drill that you're like, yeah, we're working on the physical skills, but also the mental skills. Are there specific drills that you can think of right now that you're like, I, I want to share some of these?
Well, let's just bring it back to the ASAP training, just because I've shared this
Hmm.
before, but
Yep.
just the way that I created that was based on seeing the reaction of players from drills.
Hmm.
Okay, so like understanding, all right, let's acknowledge a failure. Let's go for an overthrow because that is the most common error that you're going to see on the defensive
Hmm.
side. Okay, the actual failure is the overthrow. All right, got it. That's the same mentally and physically. Okay. Then we go to spot our failure personality. Let's see how that player reacts to that. Is she going to just flip around, get back in line, not talk to anybody? Is she going to wait, like look over at her parents and see what they have to say about it? Are they going to, or is she waiting for the coach? But she's not really waiting for a correction. She just like wants to get back in line. Or does she throw her glove up against the wall and just fold her arms and pout? Okay, what kind of reaction are we getting? Because in sport, the athlete that recovers quickest will win, right?
Hmm.
That's what I believe, what a lot of people believe. And so we're not trying to get back to a happy mindset. I'm not like delusional and think that, all right, we're going to strike out or ball goes between our legs and, oh, yay, go team. No. We are trying to get back to a competitive mindset. What is this player like when she's ready to go again? When she's ready for the next pitch? That might be she could have a little bit of edge to her. Doesn't have to be happy. A lot of people talk about a neutral mindset as well. Kind of the same thing. All right, what are the facts? So then we go to the next step, and that's activate like your make your adjustment. You need to have an adjustment, not just to, okay, so we'll say your attitude, but your mindset. And so how do you make that adjustment from pouting, throwing your glove, whatever? How do we pivot? Are we going to have a different perspective? Think about failure a different way? And all of this is happening in a matter of like seconds, right? In between pitches, we've only got 18 seconds on average. We make our adjustment, but that adjustment doesn't stick unless we practice it every single day. So, in terms of like doing our reps and understanding how we are talking to ourselves about failure, every single rep physically can be a mental rep as well. We also kind of pull mentality out and make it more apparent to the kids by doing note cards, like actually having conversational questions and having a station of, all right, answer these four questions throughout our hour. They go with their group. Okay, I don't know, this last week we had these note cards and I just moved them from my desk, of course. One of the questions was, um, who is one person that you know always has your back or that's always supporting you? How do you know that? And I base all these, questions on some of the mental skills in the book. That one is on community. It's like one of my favorites, right? Because So often as kids, whether they're 8 years old, 17 years old, they forget that they're not doing it themselves. So why are they like trying to handle everything inside by themselves? So those two things, using every physical rep as a mental rep as well, understanding their connection, their self-talk with failure. And then also we do those note cards. And it's kind of cool to have that conversation either at the end of lessons or within that station and give some awareness to what's going on outside of the actual mechanics.
That's so neat. Do you have each one of your players figure out their failure personality before you start working with them? I just took the test last night and I forgot. I told you, I think I told you that I was the escape artist. I was really the yes player growing up.
I would have figured that.
Like you tell me to do it, I'm just gonna say okay. And half the
Yeah.
time I don't even hear it, but I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Um, like I'm getting yelled at by my dad in the car. Okay, dad. All right. I just want to get out of this. Let's leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think what's great, and we don't have to dive into all of them because we actually in our previous episode together talked about the complete ASAP training. It's
Yeah.
also like step by step in this book in even further detail than that, and in the book, and you have the free way of finding your failure personality. But you have your players kind of identify that, and then you go from there. And as a coach, wouldn't it be great to have all of your players, take this test and then you know what their personality is?
Well, once you take the test, because I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you're like, huh, I wonder what my personality is. Once you take the test, it'll be really apparent to you a lot of the times who you're dealing with. I mean,
Hmm.
I feel like I know who my players are without them even taking the test.
Right.
But I loved having those personality tests in college, right? Myers-Briggs, all like the
Hmm.
different
Disc assessment.
ISFJ, all of these things. Those are put in place as tools for teammates and coaches to work better together. Like if we understand people's triggers, if we understand how they are thinking, um, that's where I kind of thought, and I think a lot of high school players or people on their way to college are thinking, oh, well, I didn't really do mental training now, but I'm sure in college we'll do it. And it's interesting because some programs do.
Hmm.
Some programs will do a personality test and just go, "Oh, cool, isn't that interesting?" And then never
It's
again
gone.
talk
Uh-huh.
about.
I have been
And it's cool to think about, but like how are we implementing it? How are we practicing it every day? So that's kind of the biggest thing that I wanted to touch on because this book, I've got a lot of different stories from a lot of different periods of my life in here. It's definitely not a book for an 8-year-old. I would say the youngest player that should be probably reading it on their own is like a mature 12-year-old. But I think this would really hit home for a lot of high school players, a lot of college players. I know that I've had friends and family read it, and they're obviously not in college. And they're just like, man, I wish I would have had this when I was little. And I'm like, okay, cool, but you have it now. Like
Hmm.
I go back in there and I'm just like, it's kind of crazy that a lot of this stuff came out of me because I'm still learning it over and over again. I think I posted this a couple of days ago. I'm like, ugh, this post is so annoying because like I need it right now, but I don't want to hear it from my voice. I wish it was anybody else, not just me. Yeah, this stuff it comes up over and over again.
It does. It does. And I love following, your Ben saga of your golden doodle that you're raising and half the things that I'm sure you're telling yourself in this book, you're like, okay, I'm having to relearn this again with this new step in my life. And it's crazy because, now being a mom on my end, it's like I feel like I'm relearning some of this stuff too. Like I read this book, and I will say I haven't made it through all of it, but I will soon. It is an easy read for those of you who are like, I hate reading. I hate reading. And for me, this is a very easy to absorb read, which I knew it would be from you. Um, but I'm reading some of these thinking of my stories and how I can, relate in so many different ways to what you had gone through. And it's funny that you're also going through different stages of your life, but having to revert back to some of these skills and, stories that you've said before. But I think really anybody, whether you're a coach, parent, or player, this needs to be in your hands. Again, if you're 12 and up, I think when you're younger than that, you're just playing to have fun. Like it's not that serious yet. But
Yeah, I mean,
um,
I think this version of mindset is for anybody that wants to be really great at what they're doing. And I think that's pretty much every softball player that thinks they're going to go play in college.
I would
That's
hope so.
why
Hmm.
it resonates with so many of us that have either played or want to go play. It means that much to us that we are going to rest a lot of our identity in that piece. And so when you are that person that wants to be great at something, every offshoot of everything you do after a college sport is like, oh, well, why would I be a dog mom when I can be a great dog mom? Why
Hmm.
would I be a golfer when I could be a great golfer? And so that's why all these new avenues of life are so like they bring up the same little struggles, and you kind of laugh at yourself because you're like, oh, well, golf isn't that important to me. Okay. Uh, but you still want to be good at it. So you have to call upon all these things that you have learned from being an elite athlete.
100%. And we've only gone through probably the tiniest fraction of this entire book in this conversation, which again is why I want everybody to buy this book. It's not costing an arm and a leg, everybody, and it will be a great investment for your athlete. But other chapters that you can find is she talks about presence, community, adjusting, being adaptable and persistence. Like these are all elements that the greatest athletes have. And not just athletes, like CEOs and just people who, run their own companies. Like, and Morgan has been there. Like she has been there, done that. She's still growing in so many ways. It's so fun to see, especially from afar. But I'm going to make sure I will link the book, also link the failure personality as well, and any other resources that people can find, especially the free ones, because I feel like that's a
Oh
nice
yeah.
little segue into some of this, if this is just seems like a lot right now. But Morgan, this is my favorite stuff that you've done, and I know there's so many great things still to come. But what can you tease us with? What I know you have some things on your mind that are next steps for you post book. So what do you got going on?
Yes. Well, number one is I'm going to force myself to continue to talk about this book. So this is a great step for me. Number two is we are actually coming out with one-on-one coaching. So everybody always asks about private coaching, and this is actually all online, and it's with my team of coaches. And I think my favorite part of it isn't just that we're focusing on, all right, here's how to field a ground ball, here's how to throw, here's why your elbow's low. We're going to do that, but also um, these coaches are going to be like a one-on-one touch point as a mentor. And I think it goes hand in hand with just this community piece of this book. And not all kids have a Marty Tyson. Not all kids have uh, the ability to come to the workshop and just come and hang out with our team all the time. And
Hmm.
this is a system that we've created. It's taken months and months, but it's basically we can weekly check-ins with some legit coaches, and you're going to get softball stuff because who doesn't love softball stuff, but also you're going to get that mental piece and the check-in of any issue that is going on because every single team has issues. Every individual is going through something, whether
Hmm.
it's playing time, whether it is, I'm not confident. How do I build that? I love defense, but when I'm, on the field, I play differently than I'm in practice. So really excited for that. Really excited for the team of coaches.
I might be calling you guys at some point in time after
Yeah.
I have this baby in
Yeah.
April. And I'm just kidding. But what an incredible resource. I think the fact that you're thinking of people that you don't get to see every day, and that's actually why I even started virtual training was like, not everybody has a hitting coach that can help with these aspects. Like down the street. And I can see that going absolutely nuts. So I'm excited to follow that. Um, Now, I would be remiss to not ask you this final question before we sign off, but there are a lot of coaches out there that obviously want to do right by their athletes, and they're listening right now to this conversation. how can and this is a loaded question, so take your time answering it, but how can a coach, be able to address, some of these things, especially when it comes to like anxiety, depression, and pressure with their teams to make it not seem awkward or weird that they're trying to help them with these, things.
One, I think something really, really easy that coaches discount is having simple rules, simple standards. Like before like when you're setting up your team, and I know that a lot of parents are helping, so it's just like, oh, I don't know how to run a team, or I don't know how to build a culture that I know that my daughter is going to feel safe and welcome, and we're going to talk about these kind of things. First, set up your foundation of like what the kids are going to do every single time that they're there. So, like at lessons, eye contact, hustle, make adjustments. Like when kids have those three things, then they're free to kind of be more of themselves. Then two, when you are trying to get to know kids, I think, or not even get to know them, but if you're bringing up these things, it is awkward if you're just like, okay, guys, we're now going to talk about presence. Okay, we're now going to talk about patience.
Yeah.
Like weaving things into practice is doable. Putting them into drills is doable. You have to be a little bit creative. One of the things that I think has helped a lot in understand, like putting the person before the player, is just
Mhm.
having updates at the beginning of a lesson. Right? So everybody goes around and we're clued in if somebody doesn't want to share an update. We're clued in if they have a like, hey, I'm not feeling very good. They're clued in if they only ever share softball stuff and they never share anything about their personal life. So that's something that if you're seeing a team week in and week out, and these are your girls, these are your 12 to 18 girls that you're seeing every week, you're going to start to understand them. And a lot of these are individual conversations. But if you want to use like team time to work on this, uh, there's so many resources that actually have like, okay, my book, I've got workbooks that come with it as well. And of course, I'm not going to be able to think about like all of the other ones available, but there's so many things that you can do if you just kind of dip your toe in the water and you put yourself in more of an uncomfortable situation of doing something that isn't quite like comfortable for you, which is put a note card out for a station and ask some questions. Like it's kind of a trick that I took from some teacher friends of in the beginning of their class, they had they had these questions on a note card. All right, what's something really cool about you? What's something that I should know about you, but you're probably never going to tell me? And kids writing things makes it a little bit safer as well.
Hmm.
And when you bring up something that you don't know if anybody's going to raise their hand and talk about, if they already have it written down, it makes it 100% less awkward.
Absolutely. And that is one thing that I loved about your book too. I'm looking at page 8 right now. You have literal note-taking spots for this type of stuff. Like, what is your greatest fear when it comes to your sport? Have you ever thought about quitting your sport? Why not? And I know those are deep questions. Don't ask those day one. But at the end of the day, if athletes can have a safe space where they can get these thoughts down on paper, it always feels good when you get that stuff out too. So, I think all coaches should get their hands on this just so you can at least have it. And then I'm sure there's so many ideas of how to frame practices in there. But that was such a good explanation. And I'm so excited for people to get their hands on this book if they didn't know about it already. Um, but Morgan, I think every conversation I have with you is always better than the last. But I think we went kind of deep, but in a way to where it's going to affect a lot of people in a positive way. So I just, one, commend you for even putting out this book, The Real Work, a guide for the young athlete growing up in sport, but also for everything that you're doing to just help not just players become good defenders, but just good people and, leaders in this world. You're changing the game, girlfriend. So just thanks for being you.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me on again. Your listeners might be a little bit bored of me, but I always have a good
There's
time
no way.
talking.
There's no way.
There's no way.
Amazing. Well, thanks again, and I can't wait to see, what's still to come for you. But thanks for being a guest again. Can't wait for our fourth conversation already.
It's gonna happen. Next book.